Hello everyone, welcome back to the SMITE Khepri tutorial, walkthrough guide thing. We're currently on Clash. I may actually keep this at 3 videos for this, because there's not a whole lot of difference here between the various Clash games. I've discussed the major differences between playing Khepri in Conquest as opposed to playing Khepri in Clash here, and I think stretching this out to 5 episodes would be a little redundant without some kind of major change happening to either Khepri, the items, or what have you. So this being the 3rd episode, this may be just the last Clash episode, and then I'll do 3 episodes of Joust talking about that, and 3 episodes of Arena, because I don't want to go too ballistic on a lot of these episodes for individual gods, because then I'm not going to have enough time to cover all the gods, the ever-increasing roster of gods, for the various seasons. After all, once, say, the next season rolls around, I've got 7 Conquest episodes, so when the new season comes around, I'll probably do 3 episodes of Conquest, and then for all the other modes, I've got 3 of each. I'll probably do 2 of those, make it a nice even 5 to discuss the changes for Khepri, how that alters, how you play him in the new seasons and everything. So the initial release of episodes for each god will be fairly substantial, 7 for Conquest, 3 for every other mode, and then after that it'll be 2 or 3, depending on how big the changes are, what have you. So with that being said, the enemy team is fairly interesting. Once again, we are talking about a very unusual team comp. This one we're definitely going to want Tainted Steel. Chang'e heals her team. Thanatos has powerful self-heals. Anubis has powerful amounts of life steal. It's going to get pretty ugly if we don't build anti-heal. We are going to go into Sovereignty early on still, though. Probably the only major form of magic, well, no, they have 2 sources of magic damage. They're not going with a support. They don't have a true support. Gilgamesh is probably going to build quasi-tank. Thanatos might, Chang'e might. I don't think they're going to go with any, I don't think anybody on their team is going to go full defense. I think they're going to go with 3 hybrids. So that's going to be quite an interesting little episode there. Okay, we did get this first, which is pretty important. Oh, I missed that. I was too late on that. If I'd been a little bit earlier, that would have been fine. That would have been absolutely fantastic. I was too late, though. Now I have to use my mana a little bit more conservatively because I don't have the MP5 or the just passive regeneration of Sentinel's gift, so I do have to be kind of paying attention to that. So we're going to be fairly conservative with mana usage here because I want to at least rack up enough gold to get Sovereignty. And we're not. I almost used Rising Dawn there, but there wasn't really the justification for it. We had 2 people in lane. It wasn't really necessary. We've got some people over here. Thanatos is probably going to press this. Yeah, the Anubis is probably going to take advantage of that if I do decide to press there, so that's not good at all. I was more concerned about the possibility of the Anubis stunning me and Thanatos using that to his advantage to try and mow me down. Since Thanatos has a percentage of health attack, it's very tough to survive sometimes. Do I need to shell here? No, we're fine. Don't do it, Gilgamesh. We don't have what we need yet. We don't have the damage output. Somebody spooked my boy there. We're going to actually ult her because that's just going to be the smart thing to do there. Okay, she actually just immediately bailed, which is pretty awesome. Thanatos looking for a kill here, I think. Yeah, he hit me with that. That was unnecessary. Does he die? No. Yes! I got the kill for that, but there was really nothing anybody was going to do about that. I'm not sure how he died there. I'm not sure how she picked him up. Alright, with that being said, we've got enough going on here that we can go back pretty safely. I have enough for Sovereignty, I think, yeah. So we can go back. Go ahead and take advantage of this. Get those protections up so we can start keeping our allies alive and start working on shoes. The usual reinforced shoes, of course, being Khepri. That's what we're going to really want. And then after that, we'll work on Pestilence. We're going to need that magic protection. We're going to need that anti-heal. How much more magic protection I build after that, I'm not sure. I'm not really going to be looking for Void Stone. We don't have enough magic damage on the team for that, besides myself, which, of course, I'm Khepri. I don't do that much damage. There's only Persephone, so it's not really that important that I have Void Stone. We just don't have enough opportunity to utilize a whole lot of magic damage, or even to utilize magic protection reduction, so it's just not going to be that important. So it'll be interesting to see what I will eventually wind up going with. I'm kind of leaning, okay, There we go. No, we're not going to let any of this happen. There we go. Okay, good. That worked out really well. The Fenrir didn't mean to kill the Anubis, which is fairly interesting. I'm glad he did. But he just hit him with the AoE from his Brutalize, which, based on the amount of damage that was doing, I'm pretty sure he's leveling first, which is good, because that's what you should be leveling first on Fenrir, so that's fine. It looks like we almost have some opportunities here. I was hoping that plant would hit him. I'm not that concerned. You are very aggressive. Okay. I don't think we have an opportunity here. He's too far back. Alright. Let's grab some assist stacks here. I have at least enough for level 2 shoes. I want another 500 more for reinforced. Persephone's going back. Thanatos is going back. Everyone's going back. They're going for their mana buff, obviously. I'm just going to stay here and... no, I'm going to go to right lane. No one's defending right lane. Then again, no one's defending left lane either. That was not quite where I wanted that specifically to go, but I did not aim that well enough. Okay, that's that out of the way, I guess. I'm not really sure what they're doing. I get free minions, but I don't really want them in this form. Thank you. You gonna be pushy about this, Anubis? I shouldn't have gone from this direction, actually. If Fenrir was really in trouble, this would have been a bad angle to come from. Because if I needed to res him, that would have just put him farther into deep water. Okay. What? Oh, I accidentally ulted myself. That is not what I wanted to do at all. Shoot, I was trying to use that on Gilgamesh. Oh, this is bad. I don't have enough mana for this. And you're just dead, Gilgamesh. Oh no, well, he did die, but he actually didn't die as fast as I thought he was going to. I'm out of mana. Can we maybe relax just slightly? Okay, Anubis is way out of position here. We can possibly kill him. No, he's faster than I am. I don't have my shoes yet. I'm going to need to get my shoes pretty soon. I'm going to go ahead and throw a Rising Dawn down lane just to speed up that process, grab my reinforced shoes, and actually start to move decently fast. Shoe's going to be fine. She still let her backflip up. And now here we go. Okay, so right now the Anubis is pressing left. The Anubis is the big threat on the board here because he does reduce protections on enemy targets by, I think, 30. 10 per hit. Yeah, you're just dead. I didn't even... there's nothing I was going to be able to do about that. I think we can press this. At the very least, I can force them back far enough where... man. I threw off her accuracy. The Gilgamesh with the save, thank you. Okay. I don't know why I warded that, like, just smack in the middle of there. That was kind of weird. That was a strange place for a ward, I'll give you that. That ward right there in the middle of left lane, yeah, I put that down there for some reason. I'm not sure why I used that there. Very strange decision on my part. It was just a reflex. I just automatically threw that out there. I'm not even sure why. Okay, there's Thanatos. I was going to say, is Thanatos up in the air? Oh wait, are we actually doing something here? No, we are not. What are you doing? Backflip Neith? Nope. Alright. Okay. That worked, barely. I had to take a gamble there. I almost thought for a second I made the wrong decision. But what basically happened there, the reason why Neith survived is because my Rising Dawn gave her damage mitigation, which was the big deal there. That was what kind of kept her alive through the Thanatos attacks, otherwise she would have died there, because that is a, how much again? That is 30% damage mitigation, so it's a pretty substantial amount of damage mitigation. It's the only reason she survived, besides, of course, well, it's the reason she survived, it's not the reason we got the kill. We got the kill because Persephone was on top of that, but Thanatos would have taken Neith with him if I had not used my Rising Dawn, and again, for a second there, I thought I'd made the wrong choice, because I had a choice there of using either my ults or my Rising Dawn, and I thought that Rising Dawn would make that work. I wasn't 100% sure. I made a hasty calculation, which you never necessarily want to do, and figured, I actually thought it was going to be just, I thought it was 15%. I forgot what level my Rising Dawn was. If it had been 15%, she probably still would have died, so that was stupidity on my part, basing it on that calculation, but it worked out, barely. I thought for sure I'd made a mistake, though. It's like, oh no, I used the wrong move. I should have used my ult. Because once he landed, it was going to be totally fine to have ulted her. That would have worked out, but I'm glad I did wind up using Rising Dawn, because I was able to ult Persephone right afterwards, which saved Persephone's life, obviously. But definitely very bad miscalculation on my part. That was, based on what I thought was going on at the time, that was not the move. But because of the actual numbers that were involved, which is 30%, not 15%, like I thought, it was the move, but not because I was aware enough. Oh my goodness. I'm just trying to bounce between lanes right now and grab as much assist as I can. That was an opportunity that Fenrir totally dropped there. He could have ulted. Could have ulted that right there. Or we're gonna just shell. There's Thanatos in the air. Who's he after? Oh, he's after you. I don't know why Gilgamesh is trying to kill me. Here we go. Okay, good. They did actually kill him. Kind of a bold move on their part, but okay. I mean, to each their own. Pretty sure she's talking to Fenrir for that. Because Fenrir did do really well in that fight. That was a pretty good series of moves by my boy there. Can we get Chang'e? If I get close enough, I can just abduct her. Do we have what we need here? I feel like this is a really bad idea. This is bad. I don't like this at all. We'll just take the damage camp here. Thanatos just came back. I don't like that fight. I'm gonna go back. I have not much mana left. I need to get Pestilence. I need more physical protections. I'm trying to decide what I want to do with physical protections, but I'm not sure yet. I am going to get the Cursed Ankh because of how much healing they have. Let me see. Physical protections. What do we need? Do I actually need any more physical protections? I do want to get Divine Ruin again. Again, just like with last match, Divine Ruin will be very helpful. I am keeping fairly apace with the enemy team here. I'm actually ahead of a couple of them. So Divine Ruin, I don't need the protections that I would normally use for an item there, so this will work out just fine. Missed. Oh man. Alright, now I'm in trouble. Gilgamesh came to save me apparently, which I appreciate. I'm trying to get into his sandstorm. There we go. This is not the greatest place to start picking a fight. I'm just going to throw that out there. Alright. There's Ho-Yi of Death. There's Thanatos. Come here. And he's dead. I may survive, but probably not. No, this is not looking good for me. No, I'm dead. That's okay. I took Thanatos. No problem. I took Thanatos with me. That's fine. No one else is picking him up. Do I need it? How much? Is Soyi gonna go for those crits? I'm not sure. Let me see. Gilgamesh can trigger Stone of Gaia. I don't really... Ho-Yi possibly could, but I don't see anyone else triggering it, so it's not going to be a good pickup here. I am kind of thinking Mail of Renewal might save people's lives with accidents. We'll build this for the moment, stopgap. If Ho-Yi doesn't build crits, then obviously we won't need Spectral Armor, but if he does, then we'll build that and grab probably Genji's Guard, I think would be the move. Or, do we need Divine Ruin if I'm building Tainted Steel? Probably not. Then again, I could also grab Tainted Steel or use the magic protections there. That's a good point as well. I still could theoretically build Divine Ruin on top of that if I play my cards right. If I build correctly. Hi. I gotta admit, I thought Fenrir would be a little more on top of that. He did pull through though, so that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and prematurely shell him because this is going to be a fairly aggressive situation we're going at here. I completely whiffed that. That was horrific. Wow. Okay, good. I am kind of wanting Gilgamesh here. Do we have... Yeah, we have what we need. Hi. How you doing? Yeah, you're gonna try to keep me out of that fight so that way Hou can survive. Anubis is gonna kill me. I'm gonna anti-heal them really quick, just in case. That didn't matter. Turns out they just died anyways. Alright, Hou, what are you building? You don't seem to be building crits, but we'll suspend judgment for the time being, because I just finished my mail of renewal, so I have the time to at least contemplate what my next move is going to be, in terms of protections. So we can afford to wait and see what he does. So far we are ahead, barely kill-wise, barely, actually we're a little behind gold-wise, but we have their left tower, which is at least some advantage there, so that's pretty important. So let me see, the Thanatos fortunately has not been doing well. I've been slightly focusing him out. I've also been looking at Anubis a lot. I suppose I should probably be paying more attention to Hou. I've been ignoring him a large amount of the time, and this is clearly turning around and biting me. And the team as well. Nice. That was a good ult by Chang'e. Alright. My Mail of Renewal activated there. We're just going to go ahead and take care of this problem. Wait, somebody was dying. Who is this? Me, apparently. There goes Fenrir, unfortunately. Alright. We could probably kill Anubis if Persephone would come over. I'm not really sure what's going down here, though. Uh-oh. And I lived. Whoo! He left me, too. He was probably very confident that I was going to die there. Does he have Blink? No, he just ran around the corner and I wasn't paying enough attention, apparently. Oh, he is not building... Alright, that's interesting. He does not seem to be building any form of crit, so we can go ahead and go a little bit ballistic with this. I might go into Breastplate of Valor for once, just for the cooldowns. Again, this is Flash, we're going to need a little bit more cooldowns than normal. I could always convert that to Spectral Armor if I need to, but it does not look like anyone on their team is building crits at all, so it doesn't really look like I'm going to need any kind of... what do you call it? It doesn't look like I'm going to need Spectral Armor. Had to bring cramp there. I would normally, Witchblade is something that I thought about, but they only have really Hou as a consistent auto attacker. Gilgamesh, I'm not sure what he's building yet. That was nice. What is Gilgamesh building? He's kind of building auto attack, but not really. Oh. Yeah, the Anubis thinks he's sneaky. He's not. He's not sneaky. That is not a sneaky Anubis. We've lost both of our towers, so now we're behind that in that form. With that. They're going to try to kill her. I already know this. Oh no! I did not even realize she was being pulled towards me. Let's see what Hou is building. We don't actually need to build... We don't need to make our decision quite yet, but... Our problem in this match is primarily that we are very uncoordinated. This is partially my fault. I'm not communicating when I'm actually going in, but... The Fenrir is a little... It hesitates a little bit. No, we don't need to surrender this. We're fine. The Fenrir hesitates just a moment. I mean, he does go in, but he hesitates a moment. The Gilgamesh is a little too aggressive. Goes in by himself a lot. The Neith is pretty aware. Persephone is pretty aware. I think Persephone just kind of goes too deep into it. Okay, we just straight up lost, but that's fine. Mostly the issue there was primarily our teamwork. Gilgamesh was way too aggressive, considering, though, that they were... I mean, I should have been the first one in Gilgamesh half the time, was the first one in situations that I was not going into because I didn't think they were ideal. I just didn't simply think that we had an option there, a good opportunity to get into that fight. So Gilgamesh was picking fights that I was feeling were bad, personally. Um, so I wish the Gilgamesh would have, I don't know, relaxed a little bit there. The Fenrir, like I said, the Fenrir played fine other than some brief moments of hesitation. There was that one in the middle of the game that I mentioned that I thought Fenrir was going to be right behind me with. And the Persephone, I think... The Persephone, I think, was doing really well. I think the main problem with Persephone was just that she was going maybe... No, I won't actually say that. I was going to say I think the Persephone was going too deep. I don't think that's the case. I think she was being slightly focused out. She can't really control that. So I'm actually going to say that the Persephone was fine. It was just that she was being slightly focused. The Chang'e played really well. The Hou-Yi played really well. I ignored the Hou-Yi too much, personally. I should have been looking a little bit more at the Hou-Yi, trying to get him out, trying to get him killed. I ignored him for too long in the beginning. I was more concerned about Thanatos and Anubis, because they're pretty famously tank killers, and I needed, obviously, them to be down, while this mostly worked with Thanatos, because Thanatos is high risk, high reward, and so if you focus him out, he has a hard time. Anubis is much safer to play, because he has all that lifesteal that he can bust out. So, the Anubis had a much easier time adapting to me, my mild attempts at focusing him out, whereas Thanatos was falling apart, because I was trying pretty hard to focus him out and get him killed, so he would fall behind, and not do as well, because I really needed him to not do as well. Thanatos is a pretty huge counter to Khepri, so you do want to pay a lot of attention to what Thanatos is doing when you're playing Khepri, and the main reason why is because he's got the execute, and any execute ability will ignore Khepri's ult. Granted, there are only 3 gods in the game that have one, which would be Achilles, Thanatos, and Kwang, but Thanatos is the easiest to deal with because he doesn't have an actual escape. The enemy Gilgamesh played quite well as well. I do feel like the Thanatos was partially too aggressive. I do kind of feel like maybe the Chang'e could have farmed a little bit better. Now, the Thanatos is level 16 because obviously I was focusing him out somewhat, and he's, like I said, he's high risk, high reward. Once you start focusing him out as a support and your teammates are paying attention, which for the most part they were, he's pretty easy to eliminate. The Chang'e, I think, probably didn't farm as much. That's why Chang'e's a level down from even Gilgamesh, who wasn't building power. I think just Chang'e wasn't farming enough. Obviously, Gilgamesh has the Sentinel's gift and could just be there and get farmed, but Chang'e didn't have that. And I just think that was the only reason why Chang'e was behind. She just didn't farm enough overall. Otherwise, that would be the only comments I would make there. In terms of build, my build was fine. I was trying to kind of suss out what the Hou-Yi was doing, but it doesn't look like he was going to build crit at all, so I would have gone into Breastplate of Valor for that cooldown reduction, and then gone into the Magic Protection version of Tainted Steel, and then from there go into Divine Ruin, replacing my boots with, or my shoes with Divine Ruin. Persephone, the Soul Gem is a nice early build on her. That's fine. I really like that. Shoes of Focus, Rod of Tahuti. Again, I do kind of question the Rod of Tahuti on Persephone. I'm just not so fond of it on her specifically. That's a personal preference. Again, it is extremely good on her. It's extremely good on most people. I do appreciate that she built the 10% pen here, some flat pen here. I think this was probably going to be, in all honesty, either Divine Ruin or this was going to be Obsidian Shard. Either would have worked. This possibly could have been the almost as equally effective Spirit of the Magus. That would have been great as well. I do appreciate the fact that she picked up Vampiric Shroud, recognizing that they had 3 forms of physical damage, and that the Hou-Yi and Thanatos were probably going to slap. So the pickup of Vampiric Shroud was a really great move here, so I do appreciate that a lot. That was great. The Neith, Death's Toll, that's fine against Thanatos. Shoes, Transcendence, that's fine. Toxic Blade, great pickup. For Neith, personally, I think she can also do pretty well with Brawler's Beatstick, but that's basically what you have to decide when you're playing Neith. Are you going to be an ability Neith, or are you going to be an auto-attack Neith? Now, she clearly picked auto-attacks because she had Death's Toll, so Toxic Blade was the correct move here, but don't just be blinded to the fact that Neith has a huge amount of ability damage, and can really slap with an ability-based focus. Don't be afraid of building Bluestone on her and going into Brawler's Beatstick, because that is just as effective. And personally, I usually built, well, up until recently, I built Neith pretty heavily in ability. Once she got the attack speed buff on her heal, I can't remember what it's called for the life of me. Then I started building more in line with auto attacks. But up until that point, I pretty much exclusively built Neith like a physical mage. It's one of my favorite ways to play her to this day. The Crusher is a great pickup on Neith. Really love this. I do wish this had been percentage penetration. I understand why Toxic Blade would have taken some priority over percentage pen. The anti-healing is pretty important, especially against this kind of team comp, as I mentioned right off the top. But the Crusher probably should have been Executioner or Wind Demon or something that was going to provide some more punch. Now, did the Neith play well? Yes, absolutely. She played really fantastic. The Crusher isn't a bad choice at all. I just would have preferred to see some kind of percentage penetration or some kind of protection reduction, and then do the Crusher here with the crits. The crits I don't have a problem with. Obviously, this was going to be Deathbringer. She was going to build up to the other one there. That's fine. This is just a personal thing. Again, she still did quite well, and considering the fact that, as I pointed out earlier, they weren't building full tank, this was actually a fairly decent gamble. The Thanatos had a little bit of physical protection, which I'm not surprised by. The Anubis had a little bit of physical protection with the Blood-Soaked Shroud, which I'm not surprised by. Gilgamesh had the Pridwin and Reinforced Greaves, so this wasn't an entirely bad choice given their team comp, but it was a bit risky. Chang'e normally builds the crown or whatever that is that gives everyone you heal a shield. She normally builds that. I don't know why this Chang'e didn't do that here. I'll talk about that in a second, but this was a bit of a gamble, but it would have ultimately, in the long run, I think it would have been fine. But then percentage penetration would also have been fine. You don't know if they're going to build even more protections. Anubis self-builds protections with this passive. It was a risk. It was definitely a risk. Did it pay off for her personally? Yes. So all's well that ends well. But it was definitely a risk that she took, a calculated risk, and I think it was a good choice. I just personally prefer at least some percentage penetration in there, or Executioner, one or the other. Unless she could have been planning on building Executioner and replacing Weretobi with it, in which case, more power to you. That's also totally fine. I just don't know for sure, and I personally, at this point, I would have built Executioner. But again, it's a personal preference. Crusher is fine. She had 30 flat penetration, and the enemy team overall didn't have quite so much physical protection. See, Thanatos had just exactly 100, so 30 less would have been 70. It would have been totally fine. We have the 121 here, bring him down to 90. And although granted his passive would have brought him back up to 100, and then for Gilgamesh, that's 112, bring him back down. It wasn't bad. I just, like I said, Executioner would have been slightly better. Gilgamesh, the Shogun's Kusari, I am somewhat curious about this. You do have the Tainted Steel for physical and magic protection, but Shogun's Kusari, I don't necessarily think I would have built third. The shoes are fine, obviously. I think I would have switched Shifter's Shield and Shogun's Kusari. There's two reasons for this. First off, Shifter's Shield provides some physical protection, and while eventually your physical protection by nature just increases anyways, to a higher degree than the magic protections, the Shifter's Shield would have... the enemy team, first off, had 3 sources of physical damage, so you want to at least slightly prioritize physical protection here. Second, Shifter's Shield provides some good power, and as a third item, no one at that point on the enemy team had any physical protections except Anubis, so Shifter's Shield would have been able to punch through a lot of people, and Gilgamesh would have been hitting a lot harder a lot earlier, before people started building some pretty serious amounts of physical protection. So I think Shifter's Shield should have been third, and Shogun's Kusari should have been fourth, just because of the enemy team comp. If the enemy team had 3 magics and 2 physical, this order makes much more sense. But I think because of the enemy team comp, this maybe wasn't the best order to build this in. Frostbound Hammer, of course, is totally fine. Fenrir built Boomba's Dagger. Now, this somewhat confuses me. Yes, the Fenrir played pretty well overall, but Boomba's Dagger on Clash is somewhat sketchy because there's only 4 camps. I'm sorry, there's 5 camps across the entire map, which isn't a whole lot, and it's not really what you want. You don't really want to be using Boomba's Dagger a whole lot. I understand that probably Fenrir was going to evolve this into Boomba's Hammer or Boomba's Spear, whichever one that he was going to pick. But honestly, at that point, you just don't buy Boomba's Dagger. You wait to purchase Boomba's Dagger until the end game when you can immediately evolve it into whichever one of the 2 you want. Because before then, it's only really providing 50 health and mana and some extra damage versus the jungle monsters, which isn't that important in Clash anyways, barring the first minute of the game. Warrior Tabi is fine. Bloodforge is an interesting pick. I personally prefer Soul Eater on Fenrir. It provides you with almost as much power. It provides you with just as much physical lifesteal on your autos. It provides you with ability lifesteal. It provides you with penetration and a little bit of mana. I understand why Bloodforge was built here, but it is both more expensive than Soul Eater, and Soul Eater just works better with Fenrir's abilities anyways, and allows him to heal off of Brutalize for really huge amounts of damage once you're really, building up there. So this is... Bloodforge is fine, but it's not great, like Soul Eater would have been. Arendite, that's fine, that's pretty good. The interesting thing about Arendite with Fenrir is that this allows, really, you to keep on pushing after you've dropped your target or whatever. It is nice, the cooldown reduction is nice, but at this point, notice again that Fenrir does not have penetration, even as an assassin. Fenrir needed penetration. Arendite I don't have a problem with as an item on Fenrir. It's a really great item on Fenrir, but this isn't when Fenrir needed Arendite. Fenrir needed penetration here. Whether that would have been dominance, which based on the build so far might have been ideal for Fenrir because Fenrir was leaning a little bit more into the auto attacks, it looks like, because Bloodforge, rather than Soul Eater. But, I would have grabbed Soul Eater. I would have gone into probably Titan's Bane, 20% penetration with an extra 10% on your first ability in 10 seconds, I think would have just overall been more effective. And, combined with Soul Eater, that would have been 30 to 40% penetration depending on the circumstance, which is a pretty good amount. It would have been a little overkill for the enemy team comp, but then Fenrir had Bloodforge anyways. This really should have been penetration. Shifter's Shield I'm fine with as an item, especially if Fenrir had built penetration at this point. And this probably would have been, I don't actually know what this could have been. This could have been any of the three. But magic protections were obviously called for. That's totally fine. Now this is interesting, the Warding Sigil. Chang'e has this kind of quasi-tank, well, primarily tank-like item here. Goes into Traveler's Shoes, probably to make sure that she can be there for the heals. Divine Ruin, which is interesting. Now, I can understand why Fenrir has a self-heal, Neith has a self-heal, Persephone has a self-heal. This makes sense. So I'm not particularly upset by this choice. I can see why this would be built, and I can see why this would be built as early as it was, especially since clearly Persephone was building soul gems. That was going to be a lot of healing. Fenrir was working on some form of life steal at that point, obviously. The Rod of Asclepius is fine. I do kind of wonder about the Talisman of Energy. There were only 2 allies who were really going to take advantage of this. I think this could have been better off as either Pestilence to provide more anti-healing, or personally, better yet, Contagion to give you a little bit more physical protections against our slightly physically dominant team. I think, though, the Lotus Crown would have been much better, provide some bonus protections to the allies you heal while you're healing them. It's a pretty magical time, and I think that would have been a better choice here, especially, again, given our team comp was a little bit more heavily emphasizing physical damage. You already have protections out of this anyways, for magic protections, which would have been fine. I think this probably should have been Lotus Crown, then build some magic protection, ideally Pestilence, and then figure out where you want to go from there. The Hoyi's build is exactly fine. The Bluestone Pendant is a little bit interesting, but I can totally understand why. The Ricochet with Bluestone can really slap. Transcendence, of course, Ninja Tabi, Aussie, Executioner. Odysseus' bow was a little bit of a surprise to me, but I can see why in a clash. This is something I expect more to see in Arena, so to see it here with Hou-Yi, especially, is fairly interesting. It's not a bad pickup, but it was somewhat eyebrow-raising, all things considered. But it worked out well for him, so kudos to him. The Gilgamesh was clearly the tank of their team, built fine. We have a nice early Stone of Gaia, which helps against the Fenrir, which helps against the Gilgamesh, which helps against me, because I'm pulling them. So Stone of Gaia was a really strong pickup, actually, against our team comp. The Frostbone Hammer, of course, is a great pickup on Gilgamesh all the time. Pridwin, everyone's building Pridwin. I can sort of understand why, but in Gilgamesh's case, this was not what I would call a great pick, because at this particular point, this Gilgamesh only had 256 protections, which, when you cut that right down, comes out to 128 HP. Well, the shield itself would have been 256, and then the damage would have been 128, which is not great. It's not good. So this wasn't too impactful. Now I understand that probably this was built for the cooldown, but there are better items for this. I would have built Breastplate of Valor at this point if I wanted 20% cooldowns. That would have been 65 physical protections. It would have been more mana that he could have used to use more abilities. It would have been physical protections, which 3 of our 5 members had and were doing. I basically do no magic damage, so he didn't need magic damage at that point. I mean, yes, I killed 3 people, but that was purely by accident. Talisman of Energy, again with this, Chang'e already had it first off, so it doesn't stack. And while I understand having 2 of the same kind of aura thing, the team didn't require it. Like I said, there was only 2 people who were using attack speed, you and Hou-Yi, Gilgamesh and Hou-Yi. Talisman of Energy was not necessary. Our team was primarily doing physical damage. Again, the Talisman of Energy was really only protecting against Persephone, who, yes, slapped, absolutely, but she wasn't the only one. I mean, you know, I just think this would have been better off. This definitely should have been Breastplate of Valor at the very least. This should have been Pestilence maybe at that point, and then you sell your shoes for some form of extra physical protections against our team comp, probably Spectral Armor, or whatever you have, whatever you particularly desire in your physical protections. The Anubis' build. The Typhon's Fang first item is a bold choice. Usually this is Bancroft's, but I can understand why Typhon's Fang. You've got that early magic pen, you've got some decent magical power, you've got mana, you've got good lifesteal, your future lifesteal, your passive lifesteal increase is already happening. It's just a fantastic time. Goes into the shoes, gets the Shoes of the Magi for the lifesteal, goes into the Soul Gem, again for that lifesteal. Although Pythagorean's piece is probably a little bit higher in terms of baseline lifesteal, for reference. While Bancroft's Talon does eventually beat out Pythagorean's piece at low health, on average, Pythagorean's piece provides you the most magic lifesteal. The Rod of Tahuti was an interesting choice, but obviously at that point Anubis was ahead, didn't really care. There's 10% extra magical penetration, which at that point he probably figured he needed to kill me, and probably to some extent Fenrir and Gilgamesh, so I can understand this. Thanatos' main issue is for some reason they didn't finish their Transcendence, which was very silly. They went into Warrior Tabi, abandoning Transcendence 2/3 of the way through, went into Genji's Guard, probably again for Persephone. Genji's Guard is a fine pickup on Thanatos, that's alright. And then Gladiator's Shield. But honestly, at that point, see, the problem here is that Thanatos built Transcendence. I don't like Transcendence on Thanatos, because Thanatos, yes, it provides Thanatos with a lot of power, but Thanatos doesn't need a lot of power. That would have been better off as, say, Hydra's Lament, as a favorite of mine, or the Crusher, or something. But I don't think Transcendence, and this is definitely not going to be Hydra's Lament. This might have been Heartseeker, but then I'm still not too fond of the idea, because you already have a percentage of health damage output there anyways, and there's only 2 other abilities you can damage people with, and one of them is ideally just killing them outright, so that's kind of excessive there, and I think this is part of the reason why Thanatos had an issue, is just this was never going to turn out to be something that Thanatos could use effectively. So, overall, my team lacked a lot of coordination. We weren't really coordinated. I would go in, no one was behind me because either I thought that they were behind me and I wasn't looking at the minimap enough, or they just didn't pick up on what I was laying down. This is partially my fault for lack of communication. Actually, I would say this is probably 2/3 to 3/4 my fault. Our Gilgamesh was too aggressive, kept getting into fights that I wasn't getting into specifically because I didn't think they were good fights. And that would really be the crux of the issues here, was me and Gilgamesh not being able to pick the fights we needed at the right times. So that would be the main issue here, not coordinating well enough with the team otherwise. And the enemy team was just able to do that. So, with that analysis done, thank you all very much for joining me, and next time we'll go into probably Joust, unless I decide to do Arena. With that being said, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, what have you, please leave them in the comment section below. I do read them. And thank you all very much for joining me. If you like this, please like and subscribe if I haven't already mentioned that. If I did, I apologize, and have a great 24 hours.